Salt Lake City, Utah. In the 1970s, Salt Lake City was family-oriented, safe, and steadily growing. Surrounded by mountains, it gave residents year-round recreation, from skiing in winter to hiking in summer. The city carried a conservative, community-focused spirit, but it also had the feel of a regional hub, with jobs and stability. Families could buy homes at reasonable prices and count on neighborhoods where folks knew each other. Salt Lake City balanced natural beauty with a reliable way of life that drew people in. Levittown, New York. Back in the 1970s, Levittown still looked like the picture of the American dream. Rows of similar houses stretched out with green lawns where kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on. The schools were dependable, neighbors looked out for each other, and you could buy a house without drowning in debt. It wasn't glamorous, but it was safe and steady. Families felt rooted here, knowing they were part of something built just for them. Levittown meant stability, and that counted for plenty. Denver, Colorado. The mile-high city was booming in the 1970s. Energy jobs, suburban growth, and new arrivals filled neighborhoods quickly. Denver still carried its frontier spirit, but it also offered modern opportunities. The mountains were only an hour away, making weekends a mix of skiing, hiking, or simply admiring the view. Families liked the balance, steady work during the week, adventure on the weekends. Denver managed to be both a bustling city and a gateway to the outdoors, a rare combination. Palo Alto, California. In the 1970s, Palo Alto was the picture of a safe, leafy California suburb. Stanford University anchored the community, bringing culture, jobs, and a steady hum of academic life. Early tech companies were quietly planting roots in the nearby valley, though no one could have guessed how big it would get. Families moved here for tree-lined streets, strong schools, and a sense of security. It felt like a place where children could grow up steady, and the future seemed bright. Colorado Springs, Colorado. Colorado Springs in the 70s offered mountain views without Denver's hustle. Military bases provided jobs and stability, while the city's slower pace made it attractive to families. Housing was affordable, and the outdoors were right at your doorstep, Pikes Peak looming in the distance. It felt patriotic, comfortable, and safe, with a strong sense of community pride. Colorado Springs carried the best of Colorado living, just a little quieter and more accessible than its booming neighbor to the north. Burlington, Vermont. Burlington in the 1970s was a small New England city with a big heart. Sitting on the shores of Lake Champlain, it offered families clean air, community spirit, and a strong sense of local pride. The University of Vermont added culture and youthful energy. It wasn't a booming metropolis, but that was the point. Burlington balanced small-town safety with just enough amenities to make life comfortable. It felt wholesome, connected, and deeply tied to its natural surroundings. Aspen, Colorado. By the 1970s, Aspen had already shed its mining town past and turned into something far more glamorous. Ski slopes drew visitors from around the world, and festivals brought music and art to the valley. Writers, celebrities, and adventurers rubbed elbows, but it never lost its mountain charm. The air was clean, the snow was thick, and the pace could be as busy or as slow as you wanted. Aspen offered the good life with a cultural edge that was hard to beat. Durham, North Carolina. Durham in the 1970s sat at a crossroads. Tobacco still left its mark, but Research Triangle Park was planting the seeds of something bigger. The jobs were steady, houses affordable, and neighborhoods friendly. Families sent kids to good schools, while downtown slowly shifted from industry to education and medicine. Durham wasn't flashy, but it carried a sense of forward motion. Folks could see brighter days ahead, even if the boom was still down the road. It was a city in transition, full of quiet promise. Boulder, Colorado. If you landed in Boulder in the 70s, you'd find a college town just starting to shape its reputation. The mountains framed every view, calling people outdoors to hike, ski, or just breathe the crisp air. The University of Colorado gave the place energy, filling coffee shops and bookstores. Boulder also drew in free-spirited folks looking for something different, a little more progressive than the average town. Between the scenery and the culture, it felt like a place where new ideas could take root. Austin, Texas. Austin in the 1970s felt like a place humming with energy, even though it wasn't yet the bustling city it would become. The University of Texas kept the town youthful, while local musicians filled clubs with live sounds that gave the city its character. 6th Street was alive with guitars and laughter. At the same time, new tech and defense jobs started trickling in, bringing opportunity. Austin managed to be both laid back and ambitious, mixing Southern roots with a growing creative streak. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ann Arbor was alive in the 70s, carrying both the bustle of a university town and the comfort of a small city. The University of Michigan shaped nearly everything, from football Saturdays to art fairs downtown. Cafes, bookstores, and record shops kept the place lively, while good schools and safe neighborhoods drew families. It was progressive, youthful, and affordable all at once. Ann Arbor blended Midwestern friendliness with a cultural heartbeat, making it one of the more vibrant spots to call home. Portland, Oregon. In the 1970s, Portland was earning its reputation as a city built around quality of life. It was green, affordable, and the right size, big enough for jobs and culture, small enough to stay manageable. Neighborhoods felt close-knit, with tree-lined streets and corner shops. The city had a growing environmental consciousness, too, which gave it a forward-looking feel. Portland blended community pride with natural beauty, making it the kind of place where families felt connected and young folks saw possibility. Chapel Hill, North Carolina. This little southern town carried big character in the 1970s. Anchored by the University of North Carolina, it had leafy neighborhoods, historic brick buildings, and a strong sense of pride. Families appreciated the good schools while students kept the town youthful and vibrant. Coffee shops, bookstores, and music venues brought culture that outshined its size. Chapel Hill managed to mix Southern charm with academic energy, creating a welcoming atmosphere that made it feel both progressive and rooted at the same time. Bellevue, Washington. Back in the 1970s, Bellevue was still finding its identity. Families moved across the bridge from Seattle, drawn by clean streets, strong schools, and new suburban homes. Shopping malls were going up, neighborhoods were filling in, and it felt like a place freshly built for the future. Though it hadn't yet become a tech hub, you could already sense the momentum. Bellevue was where parents felt safe letting their kids roam while enjoying the benefits of steady growth and opportunity. Scottsdale, Arizona. Scottsdale in the 1970s offered a taste of the good life in the desert. Golf courses, resorts, and sunshine made it attractive to retirees, while new housing developments pulled in young families. Tourism was booming, with folks flocking to enjoy the dry air and clear skies. It balanced a little luxury with everyday livability. Scottsdale was the kind of place where you could spend mornings on the fairway, evenings under the stars, and always feel you'd found comfort in the desert. Raleigh, North Carolina. In the 70s, Raleigh was affordable, friendly, and starting to grow. Research Triangle Park was just beginning to make its mark, slowly shifting the city from traditional southern roots to one with bigger ambitions. Families moved in for solid schools and modestly priced homes. Downtown still felt small, but energy was building. Raleigh had the best of both worlds. Southern hospitality paired with early signs of opportunity, making it a city where life felt steady, yet full of promise. Irvine, California. In the 1970s, Irvine was brand new, built from the ground up as one of America's great planned communities. Former ranch land turned into cul-de-sacs, schools and shopping centers designed with families in mind. People came for the safety, the organization, and the promise of a clean, modern suburb. Every neighborhood felt carefully arranged, from parks to bike paths. Irvine was proof that you could engineer a community that worked, one where families felt secure and the future looked orderly and bright. Madison, Wisconsin. Madison in the 70s offered a mix you didn't find in many Midwestern cities. Between the lakes, the state capital, and the university, it buzzed with both politics and youth. Affordable housing made it attractive, while the arts and music scenes gave it color. Families liked its safety and schools, while students and young people embraced its progressive spirit. It was easy to bike around town, spend a Saturday at the farmer's market, and feel like life here balanced work with play. Phoenix, Arizona. The 1970s were Phoenix's coming-of-age years. Air conditioning made summers bearable, and people poured in from across the country, chasing sunshine and opportunity. New subdivisions stretched across the desert, offering affordable homes for growing families. Jobs followed, keeping the economy humming. Phoenix carried that wide-open Sunbelt spirit, modern, sprawling, and optimistic. For many, it symbolized a fresh start, where the dream of a house, a yard, and endless blue skies seemed not just possible, but almost guaranteed. San Diego, California. Few cities had it as good as San Diego in the 70s. The weather was picture-perfect year-round, beaches stretched for miles, and the military provided a steady economic backbone. Families filled the suburbs, while tourists filled the waterfront. The city billed itself as America's finest, and most who lived there agreed. San Diego felt casual and welcoming, with a laid-back pace that matched the sunshine. It was a place where life could feel like vacation, even on an ordinary Tuesday. San Jose, California. In the 1970s, San Jose was still transitioning from orchards to offices. Housing was affordable compared to nearby San Francisco, and the first sparks of Silicon Valley were beginning to show. Electronics and defense firms provided jobs while new neighborhoods sprouted quickly. Families appreciated the suburban comfort and opportunities, even as the city's identity shifted. San Jose was on the cusp of something huge, but in the 70s, it was still approachable, a place where middle-class dreams could thrive. Santa Barbara, California. Santa Barbara in the 70s was as close to paradise as many could imagine. Red-tiled roofs, ocean breezes, and a Mediterranean climate gave it unmatched beauty. The university brought youth and culture, while retirees and families sought its slower pace. Though it carried a higher price tag than many towns, the quality of life was undeniable. Santa Barbara meant morning walks by the beach, golden sunsets over the hills, and a sense that every day carried just a little magic. Plano, Texas. Plano in the 1970s was a small Texas town exploding into one of the nation's fastest-growing suburbs. Families left Dallas in search of new homes, better schools, and a safer community. Housing developments went up almost overnight, joined by shopping centers and parks. Plano felt fresh and full of energy, with the young families building lives together. It was affordable, family-friendly, and brimming with promise. Plano captured that wide-open suburban optimism the 1970s seemed to encourage across America. Marietta, Georgia. By the 1970s, Marietta had become one of Atlanta's most desirable suburbs. Families tied to Lockheed and other local industries settled into new neighborhoods with good schools and a small-town feel. The historic square stayed lively, while highways made commuting into Atlanta easier. Marietta blended southern charm with suburban growth, offering both front porch friendliness and modern convenience. It was the kind of place where families could set down roots and feel proud to call it home. Edina, Minnesota. Edina in the 1970s was already one of the Twin Cities' most sought-after suburbs. Known for excellent schools and safe neighborhoods, it offered tree-lined streets, spacious homes, and community pride. Families moved here for stability and comfort, while shopping hubs like Southdale Center gave residents a modern edge. Winters were cold, but neighbors looked out for each other. Edina balanced suburban convenience with Midwestern warmth, making it a steady choice for those chasing the good life. Newton, Massachusetts. In the 1970s, Newton stood out as one of Boston's most respected suburbs. Affluent, historic, and filled with top-notch schools, it attracted professionals seeking both culture and community. Leafy neighborhoods carried a timeless charm, while its proximity to Boston meant jobs and city life were just a short drive away. Newton represented New England living at its best: historic homes, safe streets, and a sense of continuity that gave families confidence their investment of time and money would last. Bethesda, Maryland. Bethesda in the 70s was thriving, a well-educated suburb tied closely to Washington, D.C. government, and medical jobs anchored the economy, while neighborhoods offered stability and a comfortable lifestyle. Families liked the schools, the access to culture, and the mix of suburban calm with city convenience. Bethesda felt polished yet approachable, the kind of place where young professionals and growing families could thrive. It carried a sense of prosperity that made it one of the most admired suburbs of its time. Sugar Land, Texas. Sugar Land was just beginning its transformation in the 1970s. Once a sleepy company town tied to imperial sugar, it started to blossom with new subdivisions like Sugar Creek and First Colony. Families moved in for affordable new homes, schools, and proximity to Houston. It still felt small, but the growth was undeniable. Sugar Land in the 70s was a town in motion, shifting from its past into a modern suburb with space and promise for new beginnings. Tempe, Arizona. Tempe in the 1970s carried the lively spirit of a college town. Arizona State University kept the city buzzing with youth, culture, and sports. The neighborhoods around campus grew while the desert landscape gave residents sunshine and outdoor freedom. Housing was affordable, making it attractive for both students and families. Tempe blended small-town friendliness with university energy, creating a place that felt approachable yet vibrant. It was a desert town where opportunity and community met, with room for growth ahead. Eugene, Oregon. Eugene had a countercultural streak in the 1970s, mixed with the steady presence of the University of Oregon. It was affordable, green, and creative, with a reputation for progressive thinking. The outdoors shaped daily life, and families enjoyed both natural beauty and strong schools. Eugene felt welcoming to students, artists, and working families alike. It was a city with a laid-back pace where people valued community and nature just as much as paychecks. That combination made Eugene stand apart. Savannah, Georgia. Savannah in the 1970s was leaning into its historic beauty. Preservationists were working hard to restore old squares and houses, drawing in artists, retirees, and dreamers. The pace was slow, the charm undeniable, and families felt the pull of its shaded streets and Southern traditions. It wasn't booming like Atlanta, but it offered something different: history you could touch, and a lifestyle that valued community. Savannah was proof that saving the past could create a brighter, more inviting future. Honolulu, Hawaii. Honolulu in the 1970s was both exotic and familiar. Island breezes, sandy beaches, and palm-lined streets gave it postcard charm, while steady military and government jobs provided stability. The cost of living was higher than the mainland, but the lifestyle was hard to beat. Families enjoyed a melting pot of cultures, great food, and endless sunshine. Honolulu felt like paradise with a paycheck, a city where hard work still gave you access to one of the world's most beautiful settings. Tampa, Florida? Tampa was a growing Sunbelt city in the 1970s, drawing newcomers with its affordable housing and coastal lifestyle. The economy was diversifying, and families liked the mix of opportunity and sunshine. Neighborhoods spread out as retirees and young families alike settled near the bay. Tampa wasn't flashy, but it carried that easy Florida pace, with weekends spent fishing, boating, or just soaking in the warm weather. It represented the pull of the South for those chasing a fresh start. Orlando, Florida. The 1970s transformed Orlando. Disney World opened in 1971, and the city exploded with growth. New neighborhoods, schools, and jobs followed as tourists flooded the area. Families found affordable housing and steady work, tied to hospitality and construction. Orlando felt like a place where excitement was always close by. For kids, it was magical. For adults, it was practical. Orlando captured the optimism of the decade, a city reinventing itself before the nation's eyes and thriving in the process. Stamford, Connecticut. Stamford in the 1970s was booming with corporate relocations from New York City. High-rises sprouted downtown while suburban neighborhoods offered comfort for commuting families. It combined big city opportunity with small-town convenience, and that balance was its appeal. Families liked the schools, the jobs, and the relative affordability compared to Manhattan. Stamford symbolized the suburban success story of its time, still close enough to the city, but far enough to feel like you'd built a more relaxed and comfortable life. Columbus, Ohio. Columbus in the 1970s had something many other Midwestern cities didn't: stability. Ohio State University fueled growth, while the local economy proved steadier than steel-reliant towns like Pittsburgh or Cleveland. Families could buy homes at fair prices and send kids to solid schools. The city carried a practical, unpretentious vibe. It wasn't glamorous, but it was dependable, and that meant a lot during uncertain times. Columbus represented the Midwest at its best: steady, affordable, and quietly confident about its future. Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati was a balanced city in the 1970s, still supported by industry and filled with strong neighborhoods. Families liked its schools, its affordability, and its community pride. Downtown had its struggles, but the suburbs grew steadily, offering safety and opportunity. Baseball fever with the Big Red Machine gave the whole city something to cheer for. Cincinnati carried that mix of Midwest work ethic and local loyalty, making it a dependable place to raise a family and build a life. Rochester, New York. Rochester in the 1970s was built on steady jobs from Kodak and Xerox, making it one of the more secure cities in upstate New York. Families appreciated the stability, the good schools, and the comfortable neighborhoods. Winters were long, but community spirit carried folks through. Rochester had a strong middle-class backbone. With a local pride in both work and play, it was the kind of place where paychecks stretched, kids felt safe, and neighbors watched out for one another. Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville was a southern boomtown in the 1970s, thanks to NASA's space program and Redstone Arsenal. Rocket scientists and engineers rubbed shoulders with longtime locals, giving the city a unique character. Jobs were plentiful, schools were improving, and neighborhoods grew quickly. Families felt optimistic about the future, tied to both space exploration and defense work. Huntsville carried small-town friendliness with high-tech ambition, making it one of the most surprising success stories of the decade. Clearwater, Florida. Clearwater in the 1970s was one of Florida's fastest-growing coastal towns. Families and retirees alike were drawn by its beaches, warm weather, and affordable homes. The city offered a slower pace than Miami or Orlando, but plenty of sunshine and community spirit. Clearwater blended small-town friendliness with resort-town charm, giving residents the best of both worlds. It felt like a place where life could be simple, enjoyable, and always a little brighter under the Florida sun.